Hello, hello. Welcome to your reading. Let me get some lights started. And my clock started. 1 second. Okay, all good here. I just set these new lights. They go everywhere. Let me give you a little tour. Like I already have them here, and then behind me, they're going like all the way, like this entire room. And I do the same thing to my bedroom, which I can't move the camera far enough. But anyways, tons of different color choices. Super excited. And let's see how far the remote works. Yeah, so you see, shifts it a little bit. But let's go with purple and blue, and I'm gonna get some actual lights on. Okay. 1 second. Very good. Okay, let's see if the lighting is good enough now. Let's get this light on. Let's just get this light on. That's fighting. I don't know if you hear it because these headphones block out external sounds. All right, let's reset the timer. And let's go into this. Hey, Mika, Felix. Oh my God. Jesus. Felix, calm. Okay, so Stephanie, let's get started. Let's go ahead and share the screen. I'm gonna have to separate these two, but I don't know if you've heard that. Hey, guy, Mika, Felix, stop. Too much. These are breaking stuff. Okay. So, anyways, here's a chart. So I'm gonna go. I go back and forth between. Oh my God. Okay, I have to break this up. And I can still talk. Esme, you're a good girl for watching. I have 3 cats. Hey, Felix, Mika, stop. I'm separating them. You're in my room. Calm down. So this weird game, weird scorpionic game they play while the little Cancer is just so. Oh, you can't see her. She just watches and she's friends with everyone. Good girl, Esme. Okay. So here we are. So in essence, first thing I look at, well, I've actually already looked at your chart. I was in a teaching session, so you're lucky. I usually do 0 homework before my chart readings. And I actually just pulled a random chart. Yours happened to be kind of in my doc, and I just pulled it. I was like using yours as an example, not like a full like reading or anything like that, but like I know some things. Let's just say. I'm also trying to get my chargers all messed up. It's like the 3rd charger I bought for this computer, and I just figured out how to get it to work, kind of. That right, I have to move to my desk in a little bit. But anyways, okay, so let's get started. So very, very obvious is the moon Capricorn being opposite Saturn already, right? That's like that's the thing that stands out right away. Like, as a woman, I made an article about this recently. Having a Capricorn moon is a lot more advantageous than it is for a man, just in general. Of course, not all men are the same. Some are, especially in today's world, have become better at expressing their feminine side, but overall, it's tough, and for any Capricorn moon, there's gonna be some level of difficulty when it comes to vulnerability and the moon rules the emotions. It rules kind of like what makes us feel secure. I always think of it like it's like 1 second, I just lost connection. Okay, no, I didn't. So I always think of it, the moon is like our inner environment, right? It's like how we live within ourselves. So when it's in Capricorn, well, first of all, it makes this sound connect my phone. That's just so what happens is that there's this deep need, because Saturn, right, in this situation, it rules Capricorn, so it rules your moon. And with everyone with a Capricorn moon, I always say that it's very karmic. And what I mean by it's very karmic, because that's a very broad statement, is that there's this need to liquefy, and I say this in every single reading I have a Capricorn moon, to liquefy crystallized emotional patterns. So what does that mean? Let's break that down. So, through past lives, because the moon is the instincts also, right? There's different emotional patterns. Like there's emotions that get stuck, right? And it's those very same emotions that have led you to your healing journey, right? That have led you to seek out a reading from me. And I have no idea, by the way. Like I make it a point not to look up any of my clients, because it's been enough time to where I can't remember anything about what you look, not that I don't even look at like the profile at all, but I purposely have no idea. And I know that you did. Actually, I need to go check that on my phone really quick, because you did have something that you said in the email that I wrote down. I think it was just related to Stephanie, just overall life purpose. Let me just read it really quickly, remind myself. Everything, yeah, so it's everything. Okay, so you've given me some information, which is helpful. Okay, got you. Okay, very interesting. Yeah, okay, so that is very interesting about the adoption part, right? Because basically, Moon and Capricorn people, they go through it on an emotional level for the first, until their Saturn return. It's not that the difficult energy goes away, but it eases, right? So typically, the moon is the mother. So if you're adopted, there would still be a mother figure, a moon figure in your chart, and there'd be energy with that opposition of Saturn, and already being Capricorn moon. That's like double this this real. It creates like a real shyness, a real difficulty with expressing vulnerability. I'll switch back to me. Like difficulty with expressing vulnerability, and it can create lots of depression. Lots of lots of difficulty when it comes to getting close to people and trusting people, and yeah. So and that's just like the moon in Capricorn. So also moon in Capricorns, on like a different level, there's this emotional need to really find, like, especially in the second house, to find value, to find values that you can attach yourself to, that are basically forming the structure for your identity, right? So it's very kind of like soul searching energy. And everyone with a Capricorn moon that I've known has done some level of like deep healing. A lot of times it's because of some crisis, or just an overall, like overall feeling of sadness or melancholy, these types of things. Now, whoever the moon represents in your chart, I've gotten to the point lately with like my follow-ups and just talking live to people that have this type of thing, configuration, that yeah, the moon can represent the mother, but it can also just represent like the upbringing, like the emotional, like your emotional needs, and kind of how typically what I would say, without knowing any of that information, would be that there's a level of strictness, a level of restriction, right? With the mother or the nurturer, whoever the figure, the feminine figure was, the caretaker, right? Whoever like played that mother role for you. And basically, yeah. So it's a lot of times it makes it so the person has a lot of issues with self-expression and with emotional expression, which, as you can imagine, in relationships can lead to all kinds of trouble, because you're constantly wondering, and you're satirizing with the sun in Pisces. So sun in Pisces can, in conjunct with the IC, can also create a similar confusion, right? Because like Pisces, which I'll show again, Pisces is this very, empathetic sign, very, very imaginative, dreamy, but also it's very escapist at the same time. And with your sun, it's square Neptune. Oh, I had a feeling. So it really clouds your sense of self, right? It's like, think of like the word like identity crisis, or like a difficulty really like discovering who Stephanie is, what you stand for. And because Pisces can be so chameleon-like, it can sometimes make one almost want to like blend in with someone that they idolize, or there can be like lots of issues with getting to kind of understand who you are on that deep level, right? And that's like the Pisces down here. So, and that's Neptune over here squaring it, but Neptune is on the ascendant, which is very, very interesting, with the North Node there. So what that tells me is that, or the nodes over here, yeah, so opposite South Node. So what that's telling me is that in this lifetime, you're trying really, really hard. So there's many levels to this, right? And I believe that we have our sun sign, we choose our sun sign for a reason, right? And I'm a Pisces as well, so I believe that, like you meet Pisces and they're so emotional, they're so this and that, but like a lot of times they're Pisces because they have lots of karma that they're trying to get through in this lifetime, but also because they maybe in past lives, especially South Node Gemini, had issues getting to these spiritual depths, right? So in this lifetime, and of course for the South Node opposite Neptune, there was something holding you back. Maybe it was like a religion. There's something holding you back from finding this like deeper meaning, right? From like you were kind of like stuck in this kind of low, like Gemini South Node, tendency to kind of stay away from the deeper truths, right? And to be more involved with kind of like the social butterfly energy, right? But like not really deep. So in this lifetime, your Capricorn moon and all the things you described in the email are pushing you to be more to one, it's an impetus for you to like have to be pushed to do all this inner work, because you most likely really struggled with emotional issues, and maybe perhaps still do, but there's a huge spiritual potential here. And with your chart ruled by Jupiter, which is over here in the same house as the sun, the fourth house, there's an energy around which is very, very odd with what you told me, because usually Jupiter in that position speaks of a very, very, and sun there too, of a very expansive childhood, of a childhood where one learned a lot. And with the sun, how your childhood, especially kind of shows that, is very, very linked. Like it's very, like it's extremely important for you. Childhood, is it connected to the nodes at all? No. well, 11 degrees. But overall, yeah, it's like there's an energy there where your childhood, your early experiences are extremely like important. Family life, all that stuff. Uncut, like even like ancestry, and you mentioned something. Yeah, of having like the dreams, prophetic dreams, which is very common with Uranus in the 12th house, or even having Neptune rising, right? But yeah, there's something related to like going back into the karmic past, or just the past of this lifetime, and handling issues, the karma, and at the same time, that's a complete reflection of the past lives, if that makes sense, right? So everything that happened in childhood is linked to that. It's almost like a replay, right? So yeah. Just go. So when you combine just like a priori, like Capricorn and Pisces, it's not, those two. You have a sextile between your sun and your moon, which is very, very good on its own, right? Of course, both have two difficult aspects to them. Moon from Saturn, this opposition, and Sun from Neptune, this square. But still, you know, it can create someone who's deeply at its highest, because all these oppositions and squares, they're meant to be superpowers. And by your age, and the fact that sometimes I say, like, by the fact that you booked this reading, and I kind of have like an assumption that someone's reached a certain level of like awareness and mystical understanding, to like when they're interested in astrology reading, to, especially with what you said in the email, that they've gone past a lot of the difficulty, right? So that you've done a lot of the inner work to make your moon in opposite Saturn, your moon in Capricorn, something of a power, right? Which at its highest degree, it's about giving back, and it's about having a life where that's built on very solid foundations, and where you're really trying to find, do something, like whether it's in your career, is ruled by your midheaven's ruled by Mercury, which is over in your third, so it's an Aquarius, so it could be very humanitarian. It could be very, something related to communication, using the mind in some type of way, using the voice in some type of way, but in a very innovative way, right? So a lot of times when you have this, though, it takes till that first Saturn return to really figure out what you're here to do. And with all this other energy, there can just be so much confusion, so much like existential crisis, just complete, and just difficult escapist energy that kind of pushes you to where you're just like, all right, I need some help, or I need to do things differently. Now, at its highest, right, Sun and Neptune is already in Pisces, right? So what's interesting is that Saturn rules Capricorn, and it's opposite your moon, and Neptune rules Pisces, and it's square your sun. So it can kind of make you have this, like, with the high Pisces energy, right? High Neptune energy, high Pisces / Neptune, this unmatched like imagination and creativity and ability to really tap into to God, to the universe, God, spirit guides, all that stuff, everything you mentioned about your dreams and whatnot. But then also with the moon having a sense of grounding, right? Because lots of people who are Pisces, myself included, lack that grounding, right? They lack that earth in their chart, a lot of them, right? That gives them that ability to kind of come back to earth after they go on these like deep spiritual conquests, right? So that's kind of, like a very powerful thing, a very good thing. Now, when we look at your ascendant, right, this is a very, very interesting part of your chart because you have North Node conjunct ascendant in Sag with Neptune rising. So people who have Neptune rising, even though you're Sag rising, Neptune around the ascendant, it gives you kind of even more of like a Pisces rising, like it's like a Sag / Pisces rising, right? But with the North Node there, it's speaking about how in this life karmically you're really trying to move towards more depth on a spiritual and philosophical level, right? So it can relate to the Sagittarius archetype of going out in the world and testing the waters of different cultures and of different philosophical understandings that other people might have. And if you look at your chart from a zoomed out perspective, you realize like it's those difficult aspects that were the impetus for you to get to that position, right? You also have Venus square Saturn and Mars square Uranus. So those are difficult too. So you have I would say like 4 difficult aspects, and let's see. Yeah, 4 very difficult aspects, or yeah. So and we'll go through those ones a little bit later. I like to kind of talk about the big 3 to get started. But overall, it's a clear indication that in past lives you've been maybe a little bit too relationship oriented, right? There's been too much of an emphasis on other and pleasing other, and perhaps being held back by the limitations that, like, who you were married to, or having like very close one-on-one relationships with, being limited to their beliefs and kind of acquiescing to it. And with the Neptune opposite the South Node, that makes you think that there was something that was blocking, right, opposite, that was blocking you from accessing these higher spiritual energies, from accessing like this higher faith, this you could call it belief in God, belief in the universe, belief in more than just like the consensus reality of this is that so many people in today's world believe in, right? So that's kind of what this all created, right? Probably very turbulent, you've already given me clues, which are necessary. I'm happy you told me that stuff. But then there's this other part that opens up once that work is gone through, and with the Sun square Neptune, it's about learning to see yourself in a more realistic way, right? To go from the low Pisces energy, which is like escaping into a fantasy world, running away from your problems, self-victimization, feeling bad for yourself, all that kind of stuff, to the high Pisces energy, which is more based on high spiritual principles, still escapist, but in a good way, right? Whether it's through the arts, whether it's through this or that. But really it's about like compassion, empathy, and kind of going towards your North Node of understanding deeper cosmic truths, right? Now, first house North Node to me is like, it's an indication that it's not saying like you're supposed to be single or anything like that. It's more like within relationships that you have, there should be a level of independence. Like you shouldn't be in any kind of relationship that constrains you from, I guess you could say, self-discovery, right? And from kind of that exploration, right? Because it's Sag and Pisces, which is like what I am. So it's no surprise that you were attracted to my work and to me doing this reading. But yeah, that's kind of that overall energy. Now, another interesting thing though, and it kind of gets pushed away, the square of ascendant in Sun, because you do have Neptune on your ascendant. But yeah, Neptune rising people are very dreamy externally. They can be the kind of people who always have like really like kind of like this like beautiful eyes, you know, like there's something with their eyes and their energy that's so captivating and otherworldly, right? And basically it's about like the question becomes like, how can I take my dreams, right? My dreams and like my real spirit, like dream aspirations, and turn them into realities, right? Through like not necessarily like in a kind of pioneering way, which because you have that Aquarius energy, which is, you know, very pioneering as well. So, you know, it speaks more to being like very caring, sensitive, and spiritual, and also just, yeah, super dreamy, like kind of like half of you being in the physical, half of you being in like this higher dimension, and stuck between these like two realities, right? And there's lots of confusion with this overall energy of figuring out how you fit into the larger picture, right? Which, like I said, with the Cat opposition, Cat Moon opposite Saturn, there can be lots of isolation. You know, Pisces also need that isolation. That's another thing. Where am I here? What just happened? Everything disappeared. Where's the Zoom? Okay, I need to move this over here 1 second. Yeah. So, because Pisces is such a sensitive sign that it can grapple on to like whatever energy is around it, right? So you probably learned that at a very young age that you could have been very impressionable and that other people's energies affected you tremendously. So yeah, I would definitely say, and of course, like being adopted, like, you know, having Sun and Pisces square Neptune, it can create, you know, more questions about who am I, right? But through those very questions comes that, okay, well, I need to, you know, lean into my North Node, into this my ascendant, because being a Sag rising on its own, it makes life very like everything is related to like seeing life is this like big adventure, right? Life is this big adventure, and it does have like more of a external energy, right? More of an external energy in the sense that you're going from adventure to adventure and trying to understand universal truth on a deeper level. So yeah, besides that, you know, there can be energy like in your chart, like someone who like really wants to like become like invisible, right? Because they're so sensitive, right? So like learning how to not take on other people's like dark energies, and like also like energy vampire people will be attracted to this kind of soft, sensitive nature. So that, you know, can be very difficult, right? And very sensitive to. So it makes it like where you live really important, and stuff like that. But also, you know, Neptune in Pisces is ruled by. I'm just looking at some. Oh, I just have. Oh my god. Where do we go? I'm kind of like looking at this article that just disappeared. Where did it go? Whatever. Yeah. So basically, you know, there's definitely a link between between kind of all the pain that you went through and this spiritual pursuit. Now, just by itself, North Node conjunct Ascendant, it's asking you to be a little bit more selfish in this life, a little bit more selfish in terms of like your adventuring and your kind of this need to really understand things deeply, right? And I imagine maybe you're someone like in youth, like I said, who could have spent a good amount of time alone, and that during that time, you know, you could have been very interested in like spirituality. Also, what I was gonna say before was like Neptune in Pisces, it rules cameras, right? And mirrors. So one really amazing tool that I tell a lot of people that have charts like yours is to film themselves, right? You don't have to show anyone. You literally don't have to show anyone. Or just like doing affirmations in the mirror. And it also goes back to having like, you know, in relationships, having that mirror, that person, whether it's like, you know, a therapist or whoever it is, right? To kind of like help you understand yourself. So that's like a lifelong pursuit. But yeah, so with your chart, aside from that, right, we see how these all connect. The you know, you have an I guess it's sextile Chiron, but still like the Mercury is which rules your career. I mean, some would call it an unaspected Mercury. It's like only sextiled by Chiron, actually Chiron. So I mean, but basically it can make one it can kind of push away some of that shyness, I guess you could say, and make one, you know, more like definitely like a very ahead of your time thinker. And where's your Chiron? It's in Aries. Yeah, so a very ahead of your time thinker. And then your Mars being there, I have my Mars there too. It can create kind of like a genius energy, right? It's in a third house, maybe something like writing or you know, whatever way through communication that you can express yourself, and that can really help with self understanding as well, and be a very huge talent. Now, with the Chiron being in Aries conjunct Venus, you know, that speaks to someone who had, you know, their power, which is related to your first house, right? Because your mission is to like is to get past that Chiron in Aries, which is like it's almost like it feels like your childhood was, which literally like relates to what you said. Like it feels like your, because Aries is the first sign, it can feel like your childhood is like taken away from you. Like you weren't allowed to be young. You weren't allowed to have fun. And when I see Chiron in Aries or Leo, I always think of like the need for like this inner child work, right? This need to kind of go in and really like and refine that sense of being, right? Because it was violated in some way, especially when it comes to like being assertive and asserting yourself, right? So like yeah, finding that power is extremely important. And you know, the way to do it, I have something in my throat, is through Sagittarius. And since your Sagittarius is linked to Ascendant and Neptune, it's through these experiences, you know, like through like I said, like thinking of your ideal imaginative dream life and channeling that into being your like your real reality, and then having a life that's like based off of that, right? Now, backtracking a little bit, you know, the the Mercury being, with the Mars in third house, it's going to make one very, usually, always intelligent. Mercury in the third house, always intelligent, but it could be like an intelligence that was like misunderstood, right? Misunderstood and not, and because there's and maybe you're really just starting to unlock this now, but what can happen, especially when you have Venus, you have moon in Capricorn opposite Saturn, right? And someone actually asked me the other day before I talked about Venus square Saturn, like, how do you liquefy stuck emotional patterns? Well, it's through, if you think of the moon, it's like water, right? It's ruled by Cancer is ruled by the moon and dignity there, and it's like this flow where you're able to kind of like, and it's the opposite sign of Capricorn, right? So it's like where you're able to really like feel something and feel the emotional impact and get in touch with these stuck emotions, right? Which can be very, very difficult because Saturn rules rock, right? So imagine that instead of your emotions being like watery, flowing, there can be like some stuckness, some repression, places that you want to go to, right? So in this case, you turn to healing, and that's kind of like what the rite of passage and kind of what's led to all of this. Now, Mercury in Aquarius, you'll be brimming with like original ideas. Not everyone's going to understand them, and you'll really like to and I think you got to follow up, didn't you? One second. There's so many tabs open. You did not. Well, if you decide to get a follow-up, which I'd say like 95% of people do, I recommend it to everyone, unless they like have like a advanced understanding of their chart, because then we get to compare what we talked about here, what I talked about here, I talked about here with your lived experience, and then we get to kind of like dig deeper into it, right? But yeah, like overall, there's this real, and what I was saying is that like I have this this group that we could talk about you potentially being a part of. We have to kind of go into speak first in person. But yeah, it kind of makes you really want to have like these like very unconventional friends, people who like it gives this real need, despite the shyness that the Cat Moon opposite Saturn can create. It really makes you want to have this like particular group of friends that you can speak about your very inventive and ingenious and kind of like rebellious against like against like like the traditional ideas of how you're supposed to be, right? To kind of go against those, right? And have people that you can really communicate with. So Mars in the third house is going to give a push towards communication. So we see how there's this split between like this shyness, but also this real need to express yourself, right? So I'm curious kind of how that's played out. But Mars in Aquarius is a very genius energy. Ours are actually pretty close together. And it can make one like very, it's definitely like mad rebellious energy, very like kind of against the status quo, fighting for just causes. And you'd be someone who'd be able to state your ideas very clearly with your Mars and your Mercury both there, right? And I don't know how it works with siblings, but with Mars in the third house, there could be issues, clashes with siblings. I know that you're, adopted, but not really sure. Mercury there, it can make it so you have like, very unusual, all this energy can make it so there's like very unusual relationships with siblings, not necessarily bad, and there could also exist like lots of like communication, but also yeah, so definitely someone who when they grew up was like very already thought differently. And the fact that I'll show the chart again, the fact that Uranus is ruling, so these are the Aquarius planets, it's ruled by Uranus over here in the 12th. Well, that in itself speaks about this ability to really get these like psychic downloads, right? Because you have Mercury in the 12th, you have Neptune rising, and you're a Pisces, so like this so psychic. But I imagine that like because you have Saturn in the 8th house, that a lot of this there could have been like some kind of hidden fears of like really like diving into like your depths and getting past these like these stuck emotional patterns I spoke about. Oops, what just happened? But after the Saturn return, a lot opens up. But yeah, Uranus in the 12th, Uranus is the great liberator. So it really, like when you're able to kind of calm your mind, like meditation, obviously for Pisces is huge, although not all Pisces do it. There's a real ability to just receive these downloads from who knows where. You don't know where they're coming from, and they just arrive, and you're just like, oh wow, how do I know what I just knew? And in your case, like what you experienced and saw. But yeah, like I keep seeing like that sun on the IC, and I think of ancestors, I think of family karma, family trauma. With the Jupiter, with what you've explained to me, perhaps like that relates more to like I know you said the thing of the children. Shining light on issues, and I know adopted is very difficult, but you're still part of that family, and you're still obviously it's from an esoteric level, it's like the same thing, right? I mean, so something about shining light on some type of pattern that existed, right? Because even like let's say you have like an adopted mother that with the moon opposite Saturn, it can create like someone very strict, someone very stern, with high expectations. And cat moons can be super hard on themselves, right? So they can blame themselves for lots of stuff. And overall, it's just a rough moon placement. I would rank it, Scorpio and Capricorn is like the two moon placements that are most difficult, right? For completely different reasons. So, moving on, I was going to talk about the Venus and Saturn square. So that's even giving more issues. So Venus is conjunct Chiron, right? So Venus is like how you love yourself, and then how it's your love language, right? So Venus in Aries on its own is someone who in love, they like to kind of go after what they want. Even like women I've encountered through readings in real life who have this, they'll be the pursuers a lot of the time. But what happens when it's square Saturn, which creates that T square with Saturn opposite Moon, and both of them squaring Venus, right? Because Venus is also square the Moon. It's like a bow and arrow that gets shot out into Libra, which is very close to the Pluto, which is very interesting. And basically, with the Venus conjunct the Chiron, and we said the Chiron is related to kind of having pain related to that assertiveness function. it can really make it so it's hard to dip into that, ability to kind of like go after what you want and to see yourself as this like powerful person, right? This person that because like as Beth, it's also what you value. So also you have to be careful for like self-sabotaging spending habits with Venus and Aries. But yeah, like Venus and Chiron can create just sadness and love, and it's only once you learn, really get in touch with that self-love that the real magic emerges. Now the square of Saturn, once again, your Saturn return must have been like, I'm very curious of how that was, because you have so much Saturn energy, Capricorn energy in your chart. That creates even more barriers to self-love, which makes it very, very difficult to have like any meaningful relationships until after the Saturn return, right? After 30. So yeah, difficulty with like trusting people, difficulty with self-esteem. That's just kind of what I see is just like major self-esteem issues. Now, this is one of these charts where it's just like there's all this painful energy, right? And then even the Chiron fifth house rules children, right? So, relating to not being able to have children, I mean, there you go. Chiron pain around that. But in the 11th house, it's like where it shoots out, it's like, how can you make your groups of friends, right, which is like that Aquarius like energy, like groups of friends that have like similar ideals to you, how can those people become your family, right? How can people who are aiming for a similar goal in their karmic destiny in their life as yours, how can they, how can you turn those people into being your family, and so on some level, right? So but also with Pluto in the 11th house, it's not so easy, right? Because there's lots of there can be lots of trauma and shadow and fears that come up when you think of like friendships and joining groups, right? There can also, like on the opposite end, be like this powerful draw, to be part of like very powerful groups, and but it can create conflict with friends, and at a higher energy, as I said before, the ability to form these like really deep and profound friendships. But a lot of times there's like a lot of shadow work that has to be gone through to get there. And of course, being such a unique individual as you are, it's not like every day that you find people like yourself, right? That you can talk about all these things with. And then we have Mars square Uranus. So that's interesting because that's like the ultimate. So we already have this rebel energy, right? And Mars in Aquarius, by the way, it's like it's an interesting one because it's like it's a very, very sleek, right? Like Mars in Aquarius, it kind of makes you go towards Aquarian things, right? Like whether you're like an inventor or like someone that just lives their life like in a very like controversial way, right? With a square to Uranus. Potentially energy where you want to like shock, like there's like a chip on your shoulder where you like really want to like shock the people who raised you, your early childhood, the people you grew up with, like in your early environment, because Mars in the third house also, because that relates to like the early kind of schooling environment. It could kind of speak about like just yeah, being kind of the odd one out, being the one that people saw as like weird or just different, or like just maybe you were just like so you had such an like amazing access to like these spiritual realms at such a young age that people just couldn't understand you, right? Coupled with the shyness and the self-esteem stuff, be very difficult. Um, but yeah, unleashing that, it just which is very interesting once again, because Mars, Aquarius, right, is ruled by Uranus and is aspected by Uranus. So that's 3 times in a row. All you need now is like a Scorpio planet to be aspecting your Pluto, and you're good. You have all of them. But really, and there's none. Double check that, 'cause that would be wild. Where's Scorpio? It's here. Yeah, so there's nothing. But yeah, so sometimes people with Mars square Uranus, they're very big risk takers. They can be, almost self-sabotaging in the way they take risks, and they really have to tone it down. It's like a volcanic eruption. Literally, that's what it is. And they really have to learn kind of to hold back like these impulses they might have, right? To be so rebellious that you start to ask the question, okay, like what is this for, right? Like what is it actually really doing me good, or am I just trying to shock people, right? Also, with the rest of your chart, it can kind of give like there can be some kind of like anger, right? But the anger can be very kept within, because of some of these other energies. So, learning how to express anger is very, very important, right? But overall, it's like super creative energy, inventive energy too. Like, it's just about, it's like a Ferrari, like being able to like tame this like explosive, raw, volcanic energy. So, yeah, like the more traditional minded people might be kind of like offended, but it's just, yeah, it's this very electric psychic energy, and the best way to channel it is through like creative, like something creative. But there's definitely a need to do that. Also, it usually makes someone quite funny, quite at least very entertaining to be around. There's this massive need for change and excitement, which can have relationship implications. Sometimes will be married multiple times. They can get bored easily. And once again, it speaks to like being best suited for communities that are open-minded and share similar ideals to you, right? And it's very, like I said before, very nonconformist. So yeah, very, very psychic charts. Now, is that the nebula? Let me pull up some asteroids, or before that, actually, 1 second. I need to speak more about kind of this love energy, right, in your chart, because you have Moon square Venus, and what that can do is that it can kind of create a struggle to satisfy this love need within you, and it's interesting because Capricorn moons are like they're the people that like need love like the most in a sense, but they push it away a lot of times, right? So they want this like harmonious kind of drama-free relationship more than anything. And it can be difficult to get it, right? And sometimes when the moon's square Venus, it can create like this like obsession with relationships where it's like you judge your life. It's kind of like Venus retrograde, where it's like you can kind of like judge your life based off of like how, am I in a relationship? How well is it going? And yeah, it can create someone who goes to great lengths to find love, who has kind of, it's difficult for them to kind of like just go with the flow and allow things to come to them. So sometimes people have this, they can be there can be some promiscuity also, with Venus being in the 5th house, to kind of try to like it can create lots of like really 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 seeking out that love, and sometimes in difficult places. But overall, it's good for popularity. It kind of people liking you. It's good for beauty, and it's good for friends. So yeah, but yeah, it can kind of create like a hedonistic energy, which when you have some of this other energy in your chart, like maybe issues with like attracting the wrong kind of people, or like just looking for love in the wrong places, as they say. Now, Juno being in Aries, right? So Juno is like kind of your ideal mate. It makes complete sense that it would be in Aries, because that would create someone who, you'd really be looking for someone who, in the 5th house is able to like help, like kind of help you get more in touch with that North Node, with that inner child, right? That fun part of life. And also someone who is able to kind of like inspire you and give you this like real independence, help you, and give you like be in a relationship with you, but also have this level of independence within the relationship. Let's see here. So yeah, Eris and Venus, that can can create volcanic explosions in love, and just very passionate energy when it comes to that area of life. But like when we speak about love, we always have to speak about the moon sign. And Capricorn moons, they want security. They want security in a financial level, 2nd house, but also that there's this deep need to have someone that you can depend on, that day after day that person is not going to change up. You have this need for excitement, and you value that. You value this eccentricity, but someone can be eccentric and different, but also have strong morals. And because the highest energy of Capricorn is like MLK. That's like a good example, right? People who really stand for what they believe in and push forward on those. But yeah, so going back to like this Pisces house, I'll share the chart again. So we see Black Moon Lilith in Pisces, right? So to me, that's just like a clear indication of how there can be escapist tendencies, and like potentially even like self-victimization, and it's not Black Moon Lilith is like you at your lowest. It's not an actual planet. It's just like you at your lowest. So it's in the same time as your sun. So it's no surprise that like a Pisces lower energy can be, yeah, that lower form, what I explained before, lower form of escapism. So you kind of have to watch out for that. What just happened? And settings. Yeah. And then Jupiter is also there. So Jupiter in Pisces, it's conjunct my Mercury and my Sun. So no wonder it's like we have lots of connections, and definitely like if you do the follow up, like we definitely have to talk about this group, because I think it could be very powerful for you, because a lot of your chart is about meeting the right people, and I'm very private about it, so I'm not speaking about it here. But yeah, it's very important for you to be around, like-minded people, to have that community of people who kind of see things similar to you, because in this world we live in, living in California, of course, it's a more progressive state, more people are into spirituality, but still, it's not so easy to meet people just like that. Now, Jupiter on the IC usually, like, even with all of like the difficulty, it can give someone this like inner well of optimism, where they can still see the big picture, and they can still see how it all made sense. And I don't even know, maybe like the whole adoption thing, like maybe like it's tough to tell with what I'm seeing, but like I said before, Jupiter in the ASC usually is very good for childhood. Usually it's very, very, very good for an expansive childhood where they learned a lot, and it gives someone like this real inner optimism, even in tough times. So that's kind of that. And then like I said, Sun in the 4th house, it will typically make someone more introverted, more of a homebody. Family is super important, which is interesting with what you said. But family doesn't have to be by blood, it can be soul family. So that's definitely true. With this house, I've kind of gone over all these. And yeah, like it's just a wonderful kind of like this North Node journey, right? Of becoming more of an independent person. It's nice seeing how it's pushed forward by so many, like by the relationship part of your chart, which with Saturn square Venus, like, yeah, it creates lots of restriction around self-love and finding your worth, right? But once you do, Saturn and Venus together creates long-lasting relationships, the ability to really like have relationships that like really last, and that they don't die over time. There's like a glue that holds them together. But like Saturn in the 8th house, which speaks to all of this, can relate to feeling overwhelmed by intimacy, right? It can even be like in some cases, also it's really good for like living like a very long life, right? But it can make someone feel like restricted in their sexual expression. And really, like, that's kind of like another one of these like pushes towards like exploring the esoteric and like psychology or whatever it is, exploring your own shadow and meeting people like me, meeting people like the community that I'm gonna hopefully that you'll join if you want to join. That's really ultimately like what happens, and kind of, it's only after like 30, the first 30 years are probably so hectic, where like so much noise, or it's probably very difficult to find that. And like I said before, as a Pisces with Neptune rising, you can't be always surrounded by other people. And one technique is like to kind of like, if you're around someone, right? Because you have like your spiritual potential is a 10 out of 10, right? Mystical spiritual potential. But it's like you spend time with someone, or you spend time in like an environment, like in a city or whatever. Maybe you'd be better suited for like nature, something more chill, because you are so sensitive to the energies. But yeah, just like you spend time with them, you feel your own energy, how it's impacted, and then you go spend time alone, and then you know exactly like kind of how their energy affected you, you know. So that's that. And yeah, South Node ruled by Mercury. You know, I imagine you're always kind of like the someone that was a little bit different, but like definitely someone that was held back in terms of like something like I would guess like the church, or like some kind of indoctrination held you back from like really establishing like a true understanding of the divine. In this life, you're on this massive quest towards finding higher meaning, and towards finding you know, like through your various, because like Sag rising, like I said, life is this chain of adventures. It's like the person who starts as a gypsy, then becomes a teacher, and becomes the philosopher, of course, like metaphorically, right? But yeah, it's very identity based. This karmic quest. It's very based on identity, um, and like leaving behind like this kind of tendency to submerge yourself in other people, and finding that balance between Libra and Aries, between like self-assertion and giving to others. It's not like just be completely selfish. It's just like finding the balance, right? Obviously still having relationships, but ones that fit, you know, your process. And like also another thing with North Node and Sag is like with this, or South Node and Gemini also, is that there's a tendency to be unstable, and kind of have like these like meaningless like people and activities in your life that you kind of fill your life with, and it's a quest towards like a more of a one-pointed vision, right? Like less is more. um and yeah, like really developed in like a sense of direction, higher vision, all that stuff. Vertex in the 8th, you'll experience a lot of like very intense experiences in love, and in you know, like through sexuality, through the esoteric, that will get you you know, in deeper touch with you know, get you in a position of higher awareness, essentially. And Vertex being like the ascendant, your love ascendant, it relates to kind of you being someone who's very caring, very loving, almost motherly in your relationships. So let me pull this open. And yeah, you have Venus trine Neptune. That's like the ultimate like spirit, like artist aspect of someone who can just combine the imagination of, and it goes back to what I was saying before about like creating that dream life for yourself, where they can like combine that 5th house Venus, which is like all about like creativity, and in Aries, it's like can be quite assertive around your creativity, right? But linking the Neptunian imagination with the Venusian ability to like actually do the art, you know, the Venus is like the painter, like the Neptune is like the imagination, right? The inspiration. So yeah, definitely finding that channel is very important. And yeah, let's see here. I would definitely recommend like besides the follow-up, a current astrology reading, because this is just like the book of your life. This is like it's done once, it's done. The current astrology reading explores like how the current astrology is affecting you, right? You can have like a transit. You know, of course, I'd have to look deeper, or the solar return chart, which is like the chart. You know, you have a new chart for each year, progressions, solar arc, perfections. I could go on and on and on. Here's my Scorpio cat. He's wants me to play fetch with him. He's trying to get me to find the ball that he hid somewhere. I'm like, bring it to me, dude. So yeah, I would recommend that reading and the follow-up if you feel called to the follow-up. But yeah, so let me see. Let's see what we see with like any fixed stars here. Okay. Oh my God. How did I even miss it? Jesse. So you have one of the 4 royal stars as your ascendant. Antares, the king or queen of the underworld. So Antares rising. Wow. That's very, very powerful. And how far is it? Let's see. It's like a very militant energy, very passionate, very compulsive. So this adds a lot of fire to you. And it adds a real boss energy, right? But it can also be self-sabotaging, but very revolutionary, very intense. And yeah, like fast and furious. Now I'm looking through my notes. So ascendant, riches and honor, violence, sickness, benefits seldom last. To be driven by passion, obsession, and potential to be abrasive or even ruthless. Let's see what else we got. But like, yeah, like Antares can be a little bit dark. But it's definitely and a little bit belligerent, but it's definitely like, you know, extremely powerful. And it can make someone like Andrew Tate. I'm sure you've seen him pop everywhere. God, I wish I could block this freaking dude on YouTube. Like he's just everywhere. He has his sun and moon direct conjunct Antares, so it gives fame, and you have it within a degree. You have it like 0.30 away, so it's close. And yeah, it's just this very, very deep. It also gives like mental alertness, like ability, like it's really courageous, right? Like daredevil energy. So yeah, someone who's not afraid to kind of just like step into their power and be different. So then also your moon has an exact conjunction with Vega. Ooh, damn. So you got some real stars going on. And what else? Let's see what else. Where's Mars? Saturn. Let's see here. It's Sirius. I have no idea what Sirius does when you combine it with Saturn. I don't know if there'll be anything online about it. Big stars, it's hard to find information. So it says Saturn conjunct Sirius, steady, reserved, diplomatic, just, persevering, high position through friends, favorable for home, gifts, and legacies. Ooh. And it says there's difficulty in raising children. Wow. So yeah, there's some implications here with Sirius and children. It says you should choose celery before or after a meal. Celery stimulates the digestive process. And then Vega, an interesting star, conjunct your moon. So you have two. Vega is another important star. It's one of the 15 Behenian stars. And it's, you know, the image of the traveler, of the hen, the vulture, right? And so it's another powerful one. Now, let's see. It definitely gives a tendency for occult and mysticism may be given. Let's see here, though. Yeah, so that's interesting. Let's see if there's anything at 16 Pisces. And then 23. I think you have isn't the nebula there? No, it's at 21. So nothing there. I don't think there's anything big at 16 Pisces or 14 Aries. Okay, let's see. So Alpharatz, I never heard of that one. Conjunct your Venus. Let's see if there's any info. I highly doubt it. Oh yeah, Venus conjunct Alpharatz, neat and tidy appearance, quiet life, good health, fond of pleasure in society, fortunate for speculation. So interesting. And then finally, the one that's conjunct your sun, Akranar, success in public office. It doesn't give any information about it. So it's not that important of one. Well placed, it promises happiness and success by giving good morals, faithful adherence to one's religious or spiritual or philosophical inclinations. Interesting. Okay. Yeah, it could even be good for the church. It is close to Jupiter. Not close enough though. And then 10 Gemini. See if there's anything on your descendant. I'm so like, what is wrong with me? Aldebaran is on your descendant. Does that make FOMO hot? No. But where's Regulus? No. So you have 2 royal stars on angles. That's crazy. Aldebaran is all about money and fortune. So you know, to have it on your descendant, it's gonna it could give you like a rich, so you may like lots of fortune when it comes to marriage. 1 second. See if there's any info on the descendant there. Usually there's nope. But yeah, I mean the descendant rules other, so Aldebaran there, you know, it's going to be very good for you know, favor through marriage, you know, through marriage, also very good for creative abilities. Let's see. Yeah, good fortune when it comes to that area of love, which obviously, like, you know, it could take time, but you're past that, you know, you're past your time of return. So yeah. Anyways, lots of interesting fixed stars. And let's look at my other list just to make sure. Mm. Um, yeah. So interesting. Aldebaran rising conjunct Neptune. So that's going to kind of ease out some of like the more like difficult parts of like the more like militant parts of Aldebaran and just make you a very, very good leader and someone with very special purpose who, yeah, even potential for fame. You never know. Anyways, that's it. Hope you enjoyed and get back to me about the follow-up. And I hope to do the current astrology as well. I highly, highly recommend doing both. They kind of, or all three, they kind of all like the follow-up and the current are live. I always do the current over Zoom. I can record it if you remind me to and send it to you and have it be private, obviously, because it's like a conversation with your face and stuff and more private. But yeah, let me know. Hope you enjoyed, and I shall talk to you later. All right, ciao.